It's the Mustang Insider Show.
All right, we welcome you to another Mustang Insider, talking all things Cal Poly athletics. Kind of hard to believe how quickly the 23-24 athletic year is moving along. We're getting to the stretch run of the soccer seasons, the football season. Cross-country championships are this week in Napomo, and it's just about time for college basketball. Cal Poly women's basketball will play its final dress rehearsal on November 2nd. Education Day field trip game against Simpson. And then the real thing for the Mustangs kicks off up in the Palouse against Washington State Monday, November 6th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, before we get there, I mean, we got to see what this Cal Poly women's basketball squad is made of this season. And pleased to be joined by Shanele Stiers, embarking on her second season as the head coach. It feels like you just got here, but you're in the midst of preparations ready to kick off year two. How much of a whirlwind has it been since you took the job here and now you finally got a full off season under your belt?
It really has been a whirlwind, and I feel like, ever since we got to town, it's just been go, go, go. And it feels like there really wasn't an off season. I think when you add 9 new players to your roster, especially, the bulk of that was done late in the spring. We were really busy once the season concluded, and then our girls were back in town in mid-July, and it just feels like there's just not been much time to kind of really put 2 feet on the ground. But it's been good. I love the kids that are in our program. I love what we're doing, what we're building, and obviously, our coaching staff really enjoys the challenge of, I think, engaging in the community and all the other things that we've been trying to do to really kind of lay the foundation of the program. And it even though I know it's year 2, it kind of feels like the first year was year 0. This kind of feels like year 1 to me. But we're excited, and obviously November is going to be challenging, but we love the challenge.
I think a lot of people were actually pleasantly surprised at how last year shaped up for you guys. Coming off the year prior and having a lot of underclassmen and walk-ons. We're seeing significant time for you during different junctures of the season. I mean, you go from 12th to 7th in the Big West. I mean, you more than triple the overall win total. I think you went from 2 to 7 Big West wins. That was just an appetizer, right? I mean, I know you feel like you can get to the pinnacle of the Big West with this program. You mentioned the 9 newcomers in the offseason. Roster construction wise, is this kind of what you envisioned at the end of last season, going into this new year?
I think yes and no. I think whenever you entertain that much transformation with your roster, I mean, that's substantial. I think you hear about the likes of Colorado football having a roster transformation like that. Nine out of 13, because we've got 4 returners, and they really have, I think, allowed us to lay the foundation. They've done such a great job at buying into what we're doing, but it still is a little bit mind-blowing because 5 of those new players are freshmen. And so we're really young. And when you look at the roster, you can see that we're going to have the bulk of it back again the following year. And I think that's the continuity that you want to start seeing as you kind of stabilize that change that occurs oftentimes. And certainly, we knew coming into the situation that first year was going to be almost an evaluation type of year. Let's really see where we're at. Let's see who we feel like can help us compete at the highest level, can help us win at the highest level. And so then when you go to the portal and you find, people that fit you and what you're trying to do, you kind of have to piecemeal it together a little bit. It's never as clean, I think, as you want it to be. I think when you're recruiting high school players and you kind of get your continuity down, then that's usually where it gets a little bit more seamless. So we're not there yet, but I do think that I'm pleasantly surprised at how much farther along we are. You kind of alluded to it earlier, Chris, like you're kind of comparing last year to this year, and so you can see the ladies kind of understanding not only the basketball piece at an accelerated rate versus a season ago, but also culturally. The players have just really bought into what we do and who we are, our virtues, our values, the things that are really important to us as we build, and they've really accelerated that part of it too, because if you don't have some of those things in place, it's really difficult to play complementary basketball and to develop chemistry. And so, I've been a little bit surprised at how quickly we've been able to kind of get the foundation laid. And now it's, now it's the time to really test those waters with, your competitive schedule. That's the part now that is really the only missing piece is playing games.
Playing games, and obviously the hope is to bring in more and more wins year by year here with this program. And we'll touch on that non-conference schedule in a minute. But you mentioned the 9 newcomers, 5 freshmen. A couple of them are dinged up. We might not see them this year, but you have a couple new additions to your coaching staff. Brooke Atkinson comes over from Wyoming, spent a significant amount of time at New Mexico State, so she's very familiarized with this west region of college basketball. And then Terrell Franklin, who was a D2 coach last season, is your new director of operations. What do they bring to this program, and what's the expectation on a day-to-day basis for them to try and continue to build this thing?
Well, they've really been instrumental in, I think, creating continuity and really consistency. I think young players, they look to their coaching staff for consistency and for reiteration of the cultural values that your program's trying to establish. One of the things that I like about, and again, I'll talk about each of them individually, but I think both of them collectively, the thing that stands out to me is just their humility. I think they have servants' hearts. They understand teamwork. They understand sacrifice. And so, obviously Coach Atkinson comes to us with just a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge that's been invaluable to me in terms of just bouncing ideas off of her, because she's got head coaching experience at this level, and she's got as much coaching experience as I do. So she's been just a great complement and kind of a counterbalance to what we do. And I think, there was that immediate respect that our players gave to her just based upon her track record and her resume. And then obviously, what we really love about Coach Franklin, Terrell, is he's got that youthful, exuberant energy, and he's got that gregarious nature where he can really engage people. And I think, in particularly at the director of basketball operations position, that makes my world a lot easier, because he can engage with so many different types of people, whether it's boosters, recruits, families, or our players, which obviously that piece of it is very important to us as well. But they've just been a great addition to the family, and obviously, so there's been a lot of change. But like, if you were to assess where we're at, given the amount of change that there's been in the last 365 days, almost have to pinch myself sometimes at how seamless that transition's been. So, without playing any games yet so far in the fall here, pretty good feels about kind of where we're at, and feeling like we can take, some next steps towards competing for a championship, which is obviously the end goal of our program. And I think not only do we have the coaches to help us do that, but I think we've got the players that can do it as well.
Shanele Steyer is our guest here. We're breaking down Cal Poly women's hoops, closing in on the start of a new season. And it's always interesting with college basketball in the off season, because you get so attached to a team, you get so attached to a season, and then it ends for most everybody in mid-March. Some teams will play on until the first weekend of April, but that's just a minuscule amount compared to the more than 350 Division I basketball programs that there are. But there's almost like like a second coming of the season that's part of the off season. But with the transfer portal and the JUCO tournaments going on in late March into early April, it's almost like you stay connected to college basketball, at least from a fan standpoint. You stay connected to college basketball until May. And then finally, everybody kind of has their roster set and you kind of hit that lull period. It's the summertime. And yeah, earlier and earlier, the NCAA is allowing, teams to meet up for practices in the summer and get together in preparation for a season. But man, it just hits different because I feel like from June, July, August, you're kind of just sitting in that same type of feeling like, man, this off season's forever. November is forever from now. I mean, we just got to get better day by day. But then you hit September and you're like, wow, it's right around the corner. And then here we are in late October, and it's like, man, I mean, you really start to see it enlarge in that rear view mirror. You're going to play your first 7 games on the road this year, and I don't want to take anything away from that exhibition that you have on the second here against Simpson. It's going to be a lot like your first game, albeit it was an actual game. It wasn't an exhibition last year. 11 a.m. inside Mott. I mean, I could hardly hear you screaming at the officials and your players. Just kidding, you don't do that. But if you did do that, it'd be hard to hear you do that over all the screaming kids. That was quite the atmosphere last year. I'm sure you're hoping for the same thing this year for that November 2nd, 11 a.m. tip inside Mott Athletics Center. But just looking at this non-conference schedule you put together, and I wasn't really sure, how many of those contracts were already, signed and sealed for your first year. I know you added the South Carolina game, got them to come here. I mean, I still got pictures in my camera roll that I look at of Don Staley on the sidelines of Mott Athletic Center, and it's just the coolest thing. But 4 Pac-12 opponents in your first 7. Washington State for the opener. Then you go up to Cal, followed by another trip to Stanford, and then you'll have a good test at USC. Get to see Juju Watkins, the highest rated recruit in the country, later in November. Is this what it's going to be like on a yearly basis with this non-conference schedule under Shanele Stiers? I know you're not seeking an at-large bid, but I'd imagine that you're hoping that these games will better prepare your team for what's to come in the 20-game Big West schedule.
Well, I think you laid it out really, really well, Chris. I think that, one of the philosophies that we have internally is that if you want to be the best, you have to play the best. But I also think, if you are blessed and obviously get to the point where you're competing and winning the Big West tournament and qualifying for the NCAA tournament, you want to play games early. And again, philosophically, I think, a lot of programs don't necessarily align with my line of thinking, but we want to make sure that our ladies have played and seen the best, because that preseason that you just outlined, it's going to absolutely be something that we can reference back to. And even competing, and trying to win 3 games in 4 days in Vegas, if you're trying to do that, this is the preseason to me that you need, so that there is that muscle memory, that context that you can look back to and you can reference, hey, maybe it's championship game of the Big West Conference tournament, and you can reference back to that USC game, that Stanford road game, what you learned there, what you found out about your team, and now we're in a similar situation or a similar setting. Or, best case scenario, let's say you've already game it out and you've already won the Big West Conference tournament. Now you're sitting in that first round pod. Well, you don't know who you're going to get. I think Hawaii, I think they played Baylor and LSU the last couple years, right? Which those are traditional Final Four participants. And obviously LSU ended up, winning a national championship. You talked about having South Carolina here last year. I think that's who we want to be. We want to, and I think great players who we want to attract, great players, they want to play against great competition. And I think our fans want to see us play those kind of games as well, because just like you talked about having those pictures of Don Staley, I mean, I envision, leading the league in attendance. I mean, Hawaii traditionally leads the league in attendance. If we want to drive attendance, you've got to play meaningful games, and you've got to put your program out there against that level of competition. And then hopefully, you can start building in some of those as home games too, which, we were fortunate enough that we were playing off of a Stanford split with South Carolina. So, I was able to kind of get in the middle of that and was able to convince South Carolina to come down here. And, we want to continue to do that, whether it's the Texas, the Notre Dames, whoever, those big programs coming into Mott and driving and creating that energy that I think, great basketball fans are going to want to see those kind of games. And I think, our fans certainly will as well. So, I think you can plan on seeing more of that in the future. I think that's got to be, something that we hang our hat on.
Second in the Big West last year in attendance behind only Hawaii, and Hawaii's arena is like 3 times as big as Mott, so that's not necessarily a fair fight. But up against everybody else in the Golden State, you guys had more attendance than the other Big West institutions. Now, the preseason poll came out last week, and you've been head coach for quite a while now between East Bay and here at Cal Poly. That doesn't weigh a whole lot for you guys as head coaches, but you guys were picked to finish 8th in the league this year. If you were to finish 8th, I'd imagine that'd be a disappointment.
I think for me personally, it would be a disappointment. I think for our ladies, knowing what kind of competitors they are, I think they would be disappointed in that as well. I think, anybody that's worth their salt, and I think our players certainly saw those coaches polls, and obviously there's not been a track record, a recent track record anyway, where we can sit here and point to, a bunch of, victories against the top teams in the league. But I think you saw a pivot of playing style and of competitive level. I think we've addressed athleticism. I think we've addressed talent. And I think we're going to be more competitive than we were last year. But I mean, obviously things have to kind of game themselves out, but we want to compete with the best teams in the Big West. And obviously, just like everybody else, I'm sure if you asked any coach in the Big West where they want to be at the top of the heap. And we've got our sights set on that. And we certainly know that it's not going to be easy. It's a process. And I think when you're rebuilding a program, we know that there's success steps that kind of benchmark where you're going and what you're trying to do. And, we understand that taking kind of the expectation of where we're at and where we've been rated by the coaches and the media, and kind of putting a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. And we know that we've got some people that we still have to prove wrong. And as long as the people in our program believe in what we're doing, I feel really good about taking that next step this season.
Before I let you go, I got to get some insight into the inaugural Cal Poly men's and women's basketball, a night of hoops and horror. That's coming up this Sunday inside Mott Athletic Center. Kicks off at 5:30. It's a haunted hallway on the second level of the Mott Athletic Center for kids and students. Get some candy handed out by some of the players and some of the staff. And then in the gym at 6 o'clock, it's men's and women's teams and coaches being introduced. Be a 3-point shooting competition, dunk contest for the men's team with a fan getting a chance to be one of the judges. So you talk about getting interactive. I mean, you guys are giving the fans a terrific experience. There's also prizes for fans, Cal Poly parking pass that's more valuable than you think. Tickets to both the men's and women's game this season. $200 gift card to the Cal Poly bookstore, man. There's a lot of cool swag you can get at the Cal Poly bookstore. And autographed basketballs from both teams, which I know was a hot item at your Cal Poly women's basketball kickoff lunch a couple weeks ago. So tell me what went behind this and what you kind of hope to grow it into.
Yeah. So, it's really about looking at the calendar. And obviously a lot of programs have traditionally done like some sort of midnight madness or kind of a tip-off event to kind of start, the season and get obviously their student body aware of the upcoming basketball season. One of the things that we felt like the timing of the event would be nice is if you're able to do it on a Sunday night where, families are able to bring their kids out, which obviously I think that's one of the great things about San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly is the Mott Athletic Center is such a family-friendly venue, and trying to drive kind of that engagement and awareness that maybe, hey, we've got something great that I think the whole family can enjoy, and kind of exposing those people, but playing off of obviously the relative, closeness of the holiday of Halloween with the start of our season. So then the other piece of it is your traditional Midnight Madness vibe, but doing it in a way where the students are available on campus on a Sunday, early enough Sunday where they can put down the books maybe for an hour and a half and come out and get involved, get excited about the upcoming basketball season, kind of get a feel for the rosters of the men's and women's programs. And that's the best part about it is that it's not only a way to bring in, local families, but also the students. And then we're doing it with the men's program. So it's a nice opportunity to be really inclusive and just create that energy that we're hoping to attract as we really try to build engagement, not only across campus, but in the community as well.
Shanele Stiers embarking on year 2. Coach, we can't wait to see what unfolds this season. Can't wait to see you in your costume here this Sunday inside Mott Athletic Center. I know you're probably not dressing up, but that means I have to. And so I got to figure it out because I only got a few days to do it.
I might dress up like you, Chris, but I scare people enough naturally that I don't have to get dressed up. Like people.
You know what? I'll lend you this headset. You can put on the headset and you can walk around like this. And if anybody asks you who you are, I mean, I've got the glasses. You've got the glasses.
Yep. I got to get the visor.
Well, the visor, that's just because I'm having a bad hair day, if we're being honest. But Coach, appreciate your time. November 2nd, first chance after this hoops and horror for the fans to see against the Simpson Redhawks. And then competition ticks up just a little bit from there. Washington State opening night on Monday, November 6th. Coach, appreciate your time. I know you're a busy gal. Good luck this season. Can't wait to be there for the bulk of the home games.
Chris, we appreciate how you represent Cal Poly Athletics and everything you do for all of our sports. And we're just excited to be representing the Mustangs, and we're excited to get this second season kicked off. So thanks for all you do, and everybody out there that tunes in. Come out to the Mott and support these men's and women's basketball players. We've been working hard, and it's going to be a lot of fun to continue to build the program. So thanks for having me, and as always, go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs. Thanks, Coach. Always great to catch up with Shanele Stiers. She has brought so much energy. She has quickly built such a winning culture with the Cal Poly women's basketball program. As always, this podcast, this Mustang Insider, has been presented by Dignity Health. Award-winning, high-quality, safe medical care that you can trust is just around the corner at French Hospital Medical Center. Proud supporters of Cal Poly Athletics. Learn more at dignityhealth.org/French Hospital. Next week, we'll come at you with a Cal Poly men's basketball preview as we sit down with the head coach, John Smith. Until next time, I'm Chris Sylvester. Thanks for tuning in to the Mustang Insider.
This has been the Mustang Insider Show. The preceding has been a Learfield's presentation on the Cal Poly Sports Network.